Imagine biting into a perfectly marbled stick, the rich, buttery flavor melting in your mouth. Or picture the creamy texture of a Bounty chocolate bar. What do these seemingly desperate culinary experiences have in common? Are they both rich sources of what we are going to discuss today? Saturated fatty acids or SFAs? For years, saturated fats have been painted as the villains of the nutrition world. We've been told to avoid them, to fear them. But is this perception accurate? Is it a complete and nuanced understanding? Over the next 15 minutes, we dive into the science behind the SFAs, exploring their sources, their metabolism, and their true impact on human health. To build a solid foundation, let's begin with basics. Fatty acids are fundamental building blocks of lipids, a class of molecules that are vital for energy storage, cellular structure, and signaling. They are essentially long hydrocarbon chains terminated by a carboxylic group, COOH. This carboxyl group is what gives fatty acids their acidic properties. The hydrocarbon chain, on the other hand, is responsible for their hydrophobic or water-repelling nature. The length and saturation of these chains dictate their properties and functions. Now, let's zero on saturated fatty acids, our central topic. What distinguishes them from other fatty acids? Saturated fatty acids, or SFAs, are characterized by the complete absence of double bonds within their hydrocarbon chains. Each carbon atom in the chain is fully saturated with hydrogens, and that means that we can't add more other hydrogens to these carbons. This saturation with hydrogen is what gives to the SFAs their name. This seemingly a simple structural difference, the lack of double bonds, have a profound implication for their physical properties. In contrast to SFAs, unsaturated fatty acids possess one or more double bonds in their structure. These double bonds introduce kinks or bends into the molecule's structure. Think of it this way. Imagine a straight line of tightly packaged train cars versus a line of several bends and kinks. The straight line represents a saturated fatty acids, allowing the molecules to pack very tightly together. This tight packaging is what makes saturated fat solid at room temperature, like the fat in a steak or maybe a butter. On the other hand, the kinks introduced by double bonds in unsaturated fatty acids prevent them from packing as efficiently, making them liquid at room temperature, like for example olive oil or sunflower oil. Furthermore, SFAs are not just found in food, our bodies can synthesize them. This process we call lipogenesis. It converts excess carbohydrates and proteins into the fatty acids, primarily in the liver. This demonstrates the body's ability to adapt and store energy efficiently. We will continue to build on this fundamental understanding of the saturated fatty acids and their chemical structure and how this structure influences on their properties as we move on through the presentation.
In this part, we talk about the structure and the behavior of saturated fatty acids. Saturated fatty acids have straight and branched chains that allow them to pack tightly and forming neat, organized structure like stack of peaks. So these arrangements maximize weak London depression forces between atoms and creating strong overall attraction. So that's why saturated fats are solid at room temperature. And the length of the carbon chain plays a role in how easily these fats melt. Longer chains like stearic acid have more surface area and more thickness, so they require more energy to melt, and shorter chains like lauric acid melt more easily because more easily melt because they have fewer points of attraction. So, well, the next role of the saturated fats in digestion, the carbon chain itself repels water, and the carboxyl group at the end is different. So it's polar, meaning it has positive and negative parts like magnets. So this allows it to interact with water, and this is crucial for digestion and build salts made in the liver, and use this polar end break down fats into tiny droplets, and the process called emulsification. This makes it easier for lipase enzymes that cut up fats and to do their work, like tiny scissors and cutting the fat chains. This is essential for absorbing fats. The source and health implications of saturated fats. Saturated fats come from many foods, and animal products like red meat and dairy have complex mixtures of different saturated fats, which affects their texture and taste of food. Tropical oil like cacao and palm oil have different profiles. So cacao oil has medium fats that are used for energy, and palm oil has palmitic acid used for cellular building. Also, industrial process like hydrogenation changes unsaturated fats, sometimes creating trans fats which have different structures and health effects.
Building on what we've learned about the structure and the sources of saturated fatty acids, let's now explore what happens to them once they enter our bodies. Saturated fatty acids enter the body through food, undergo digestion, absorption, transportation. They serve as energy source and contribute to cell membrane structure. However, the certain saturated fatty acids can increase LDL, known as bad cholesterol levels, which is linked to cardiovascular disease. The journey begins with digestion. When we consume foods containing saturated fatty acids, they enter the small intestine. Here, bile salts, acting as emulsifiers, break down large fat globules into smaller droplets. This crucial step increases the surface area available for pancreatic lipase, the enzymes responsible for cleaving triglycerides and the monoglycerides and free fatty acids, including our saturated fatty acids. These breakdown products are then absorbed by the intestinal cells. Within the cells, they are assembled into triglycerides and packaged into chylomicrons. Chylomicrons are lipoprotein particles, essential tiny transport vehicles that carry these fats throughout the lymphatic system into the bloodstream. Once in circulation, these chylomicrons deliver triglycerides to various tissues throughout the body. Saturated fatty acids, LDL cholesterol, and health impact. First, I will talk about the role of saturated fatty acids in the body. Adipose tissue and fatty tissue is the primary destination where saturated fatty acids are stored as energy reserves. Muscle tissue also utilizes saturated fatty acids for energy production, particularly during prolonged physical activity. Furthermore, saturated fatty acids play a vital role in cellular functions, contributing to the structure and fluidity of cell membranes. Now let's address the crucial relationship between saturated fatty acids and cholesterol levels. Particularly low-density lipoprotein, named LDL cholesterol, often referred to as bad cholesterol, is a major risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Saturated fatty acids, particularly certain types like palmitic acid, have been shown to influence cholesterol metabolism. Especially, they can contribute to increased levels of LDL cholesterol into the bloodstream. This occurs through several mechanisms. First, saturated fatty acids can reduce the activity of LDL receptors on liver cells, and LDL receptors are proteins that bind to and remove LDL cholesterol from the blood. When these receptors are less active, the liver is less efficient at clearing LDL cholesterol, leading to its accumulation in the bloodstream. Second, saturated fatty acids can increase the product of apolipoprotein, increases the production, the B100, a protein component of LDL cholesterol. Increased levels of apolipoprotein B100 lead to increased production of LDL particles, further contributing to elevated LDL cholesterol levels. Third, is health impact and the differences among saturated fatty acids. The increases in LDL cholesterol is significant because elevated LDL cholesterol can lead to buildup and of plaque in arteries, a process known as arteriosclerosis. Narrows arteries, restricting blood flow and increasing the risk of heart attacks and strokes. It's important to note that not all saturated fatty acids have same effect on cholesterol levels. Some saturated fatty acids, like stearic acid, appear to have a more neutral effect on cholesterol, while others, like malicylic acid, may have a more pronounced effect. The overall impact of saturated fatty acids on cholesterol levels depend on the specific types of specific consumed and the overall dietary pattern. Therefore, saturated fatty acids are essential for various physiological functions. Their impact on LDL cholesterol levels is a critical condensation in maintaining cardiovascular health. We will continue to explore the broader health and implication of saturated fatty acids in following segment.
We have explored the journey of saturated fatty acids through our bodies, from digestion to their impact on LDL cholesterol. Now, let's see into the broader implication for our health and discuss the current scientific landscape surrounding SVAs. The link between high saturated fatty acid intake and increased cardiovascular disease risk has been cornerstone of dietary guidelines for decades. Elevated LDL cholesterol is a primary driver of arteriosclerosis, the formation of plaque in arterial walls. This plaque can rupture and leads to blood clots, heart attacks, and strokes. Large-scale epidemiological studies have consistently shown a correlation between high SVA consumption and increased risk of these events. However, the story doesn't end there. Beyond cardiovascular disease, emerging research has highlighted potential links between SVAs and other health concerns. For instance, some studies suggest that high SVA intake may contribute to chronic inflammation. Inflammation is a key player in many chronic diseases, can be exacerbated by certain SVAs, potentially contributing to conditions like type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome. Furthermore, there is ongoing research investigating the potential role of SVAs in insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a hallmark of type 2 diabetes, occurs when cells become less responsive to insulin, leading to elevated blood sugar levels. Some studies suggest that SVA may interfere with insulin signaling, contributing to this resistance. Additionally, while the evidence is still preliminary and often conflicting, some researchers have explored potential links between high SVA intake and certain cancers, particularly colorectal and prostate cancers. It's crucial to acknowledge the ongoing debate surrounding different types of SVAs and their effects. Not all SVAs are created equal. As we mentioned before, stearic acid appears to have a more neutral effect on cholesterol, while palmitic and myristic acids may have a more pronounced effects. This had led to discussions about whether dietary guidelines should differentiate between various SVAs rather than treating them as a homogeneous group. To summarize, we have explored fundamental structure and sources of SVAs, their digestion, their absorption, their role in energy storage and cellular function, and their impact on cholesterol levels and broader health concerns. We've also highlighted the ongoing scientific debate surrounding their effects. Understanding SVAs is crucial in biochemistry and public health. From a biochemical perspective, they are fundamental components of lipids, playing vital roles in cellular structure and energy metabolism. From a public health perspective, their impact on cardiovascular disease and other chronic conditions makes them a key focus of dietary recommendations. Ultimately, saturated fatty acids reveal a complex story. They are not simply good or bad. We've seen their essential roles and potential risks. The key takeaway is empowerment through knowledge. By prioritizing a balanced diet of whole foods and staying informed, we can make choices that support our well-being. Let's move forward with a deeper understanding of our biochemistry. This is the literature that we use it in our project work, and thank you for your attention. I hope you liked our presentation.
If you like it, subscribe.
Wow.